Welcome to the Productive Point of View for marketing professionals. Hey, welcome into the Productive Point of View. This is your host, Jake Jordan, and I have with me the founder of the One Kindness Project, John Wang. John, how are you doing today?
Fantastic, Jake, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's awesome. I believe we met each other in California at a marketing event, correct?
Yeah, it was at Brendan Burchard's event, and oh man, it was such a fun event. I really enjoyed meeting you, and it seems like you've come and developed this fantastic project along the way. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, I can say the same for you. I think that you have a unique kind of take on the types of things that we typically look at on this podcast around marketing, sales, productivity, things like that, in that you are part of a starting up a nonprofit, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think nonprofit is a little bit different from the sort of entrepreneurial startups that I've been involved with or looked at in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely requires a certain degree of, I think from a, speaking of productive point of view,
Right.
I think it definitely requires a slightly different take on productivity.
Okay. So yes, tell us a little bit about that. Like, what's your background? Where do you come from before taking this nonprofit sort of
Yeah,
angle?
yeah, my background is in education. I started in education and various types of education products. Even from a number of years ago. My focus previously had been on things like language learning, linguistics development, that kind of sort of English development, writing development, those kind of skills.
Mm-hmm.
So previously, I think education was much more focused on content creation and content building and reaching your audience in a way that allows them to understand something that they might not have understood before in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of my background before coming into nonprofit.
Okay. Cool. So a little more traditional, and then now tell us what the One Kindness Project is and kind of what started that for you.
Yeah. So the One Kindness Project has a very simple idea. We're trying to get 1 million acts of kindness out there in the world by getting people to, sorry, I'm choking on my coffee here. By getting people to do an act of kindness every single day and building sort of a community around them of other people who would join them in doing an act of kindness every single day. Well, the interesting thing is that when I first started my journey, it was actually just personal. Every single year, I take on a personal project that I feel like could help me see the world in a slightly different way. So, one year I did radical honesty. One year I did a project where I took out a different homeless person to lunch every single day and just to hear what their stories are and to understand them a little bit better. And last year, I decided that I wanted to try this One Kindness thing for myself. It didn't start off as a movement. It didn't start off as what it has now become, sort of like we've gotten thousands of other people joining us. At that point, it was just me. I would start my day basically going out there and seeing if there's something I could do to help benefit someone else's lives. On certain days with bigger projects, we'll go out and, distribute something like maybe soccer gloves to homeless people, or another day could be like, I will have just bought a bunch of, Tim Hortons gift cards. Tim Hortons is a cafe chain we have up in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of give them out to random people that I was running into on the street. On other days, however, it was something much smaller. It was just like writing a thank you note, or telling someone who I don't usually interact with on a deeper level, someone who might be bringing me coffee, or someone who, might just be there, like someone who's working in janitorial services, and just like taking a moment to have a conversation with them and telling them that they're appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that. And what I started realizing was it had a massive and profound effect on my happiness level. So I realized and started doing research into it and discovered there's tons of scientific studies done that shows how profound kindness can be on making us happier, and literally like raising our endorphins and all of these kind of scientific backing that shows how kindness has a profound effect. So I started turning it into a movement and getting, more and more people into it. Started with my friends, and then their friends started asking about it. And then I started getting emails from random people asking about it. And they're just kind of like, I want to join this. How can I participate? So now what we've got this bracelet that becomes a little reminder and tracking ability where you wear it, in the start of your day, and then sometime throughout that day, you go do an act of kindness and you flip it around to remind you. So that's sort of where we are now.
Gotcha. And you gave me one while we were at the event, and my daughter immediately took it from my wrist and wears it. So it's still in the family, but
that's fantastic. Remind me to send you a couple of new ones. These are the new ones. I haven't put mine today yet because it's still early on.
Yeah.
And it's a leather and metallic one, and it says one kindness on one side. And when you flip it around, it's the same logo. It's got a heart with a check mark.
Okay. So you check it off when you're done. So
exactly.
That's great, man. That's awesome. Cool. Well, so that gives us a little context to understand where you're coming from. So what I normally like to start the podcast off with, once we kind of get to know a little bit more about you, is what does productivity look like for you, like just on a day-to-day basis? Because you're not measuring yourself against, reports and all these crazy things we do as a business owner or whatnot, right? You're doing kind of a movement sort of mentality. So what does that look like? What does that mean to you? What's productivity for you?
Generally speaking, I mean, you're absolutely right. Is that compared to what I've done previously with a more traditional sense of businesses or entrepreneurial ventures, you don't have the same metrics. It is not about profit generation. Mm-hmm. So I have to set different standards and metrics for myself. My sense of productivity, what I believe is productivity, is when I can set these kind of morning, goals basically. And then I do one big check-in throughout the week. So I usually have one major task that I'm like, this is what I want to get done today, no matter what. And then I have 3 sort of auxiliary tasks. My sense of what productivity means to me is if I'm able to do 2 things. One is achieve a sense of flow, and then I'm able to tick off that task to the best of my ability and kind of be able to reflect back and see I'm able to consistently hit those little milestones and those big milestones that I set for myself.
So it's a matter of setting something that's important to you and making sure you get to check that box every day?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. So what sort of challenges or distractions do you normally run into on a day-to-day? I'm sure they're similar to everybody else, but I mean, what's your biggest challenge on checking that box every day?
What a great question. I think you're absolutely right that it is something that I do, that it will be similar to a lot of other people. Anyone who is trying to tackle a venture in which they have to be personally accountable probably runs into similar problems that I do. The biggest one is, making sure that this doesn't get lost. This is not my only project after all. Like it's a lot of times kind of like spinning multiple plates. Like one of those acrobatic shows where like the performer has multiple plates on multiple sticks. Yep. It is like coming back, you're constantly trying to keep track of all these plates to make sure that none of them are going to lose momentum. Mm-hmm. So the biggest challenge that I have in building this up early on is maintaining the focus and making sure I remember why I'm doing this. There's a fantastic book called Start With Why that talks about a concept, and you can go and Google this, that talks about the concept of the golden circle. And that has made a massive difference in how I view this. So easy, nonprofits, right? If it's not generating financial returns, why this still has to remain important. So, go check out Simon Sinek. I think his name, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is Simon Sinek. Mm-hmm. And he has a whole book about starting with why, that talks about starting with purpose.
Absolutely. And that's funny. On my last podcast, we had this same conversation to start with why, because obviously he's very popular right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoa, he was on the show?
No. My last guest, he brought up
also
the same thing. Yeah, it's the same book. And I wish I could get Simon. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely welcome.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. And so I think that makes a lot of sense for a nonprofit, because I mean, a lot of times it does start with a why, right? I mean, it came from something that you felt called to do. It became within you, not some sort of profit goal or some sort of opportunity you saw in the market, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the ironic thing, I think, is that with a nonprofit, because your focus is not about essentially profit generation, your focus is not about how many dollars you're bringing in. I actually think that it creates an even stronger personal motivation as a result of it, because there's a much stronger sense of personal identity and purpose attached to it. So it's a very interesting kind of motivational factor that kind of kickstart you every single day.
So I'm curious, does that then bring up some additional challenges that you might not have in a traditional job around kind of being emotionally tied into your work more, or disappointment, does that hurt harder, or victories sweeter,
I think this is there to complement everything else.
Okay.
I start looking at my more traditional projects, like you say, and I look at it in a sense of like, well, this is going to build in to help me create more kindness. This is going to help me be able to fund more of these little kindness projects that I do. And as a result, it kind of reminds me and keeps me focused that everything that I'm doing goes towards this one singular purpose. Everything is towards this long-term kind of project.
That makes sense. Cool. So when you are having issues with maybe getting across a particular roadblock or getting something accomplished, how do you keep focused? I mean, you already half answered this, is you got to have a good why, but past that, what are some other things you do to stay on track?
I think the biggest one is I have a couple of different tools that I've used for a long time. Having a very clear sort of like one-page outline of where everything comes from. I have this little vision board. Well, actually, I've now upgraded this year to a vision movie that I watch every single morning.
Oh, wow.
Just while I'm in the shower, and just kind of like just gets me going a little bit more.
Yep.
But what keeps me sort of ongoing is scheduling two things, which is scheduling the uptimes and scheduling the downtimes, which is realizing that because I'm running multiple things at any given time, it's easy to kind of forget that my mind and my body has to come back and focus. So whenever those challenges arise, I do one or two things. One is I kind of go back and I take a look at what my greater plan looks like, which is your usual kind of like 30, 60, 90-day plan, right? 30, 60, 90. And then most recently, one thing that I've learned that has been a game changer for me is just taking a look at the question of what you're trying to solve today and kind of taking 5 minutes to meditate on it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go into this like super deep meditative state. I don't know. I know some people are really into that, and I know some people who are not. But I think for me, it literally is just about, maybe like taking a moment. If I have time, I'll take a short walk, or even just like taking a moment to like regroup, clear my mind, and just focus on that one question and going, look, all I have to do, I don't have to change the world right now. I just have to focus on this one question. How do I solve this one question? And that usually gets me back on track.
That's good. That's good. I actually had a meeting with a client yesterday, kind of some strategic planning around a big event they have coming up. And it was this elephant, right? And they had all these things they were wanting to do and intimidated by. And it's kind of the same approach, is that bite of the elephant and say, look, guys, today, here's all we have to solve. And tomorrow we can worry about this next thing. And it's amazing how that settles a room down. It settles yourself down, gets you in a good place, right?
Absolutely. And I love that analogy. It is like you got this big elephant. Where do you start? Right. That same, age-old adage of a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And that's the only thing that we really have is just that single step.
That's right. And then there's a journal that Brendan Burchard has, like a one-page productivity that's very similar, I think, in the way that that's approached. I also have a journal that on my site that we give away that's kind of a more entrepreneurial version of that. But that same approach of understanding that one thing for the day that goes to the big thing for the week, to the large goal for the month or the quarter. If you're not revisiting that weekly, then your daily stuff is not going to be one step closer to your goal.
Absolutely.
And so that's great to hear, a different kind of set of words around the same concept, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is exactly that. It's making sure that your 10-year plan is in line with your plan of action today. And, I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk who once said, we always underestimate what we can do in 10 years and overestimate what we can do in a year.
Yep.
Right. And I think in the same way, we truly overestimate what we can do in a day, but then we also underestimate what we can get done in an hour. I mean, there's just so many things about the way we perceive what we're capable of doing. And we tend to try to overshoot or undershoot as a result of that. So breaking things down with a simple plan oftentimes helps the most. I don't know if you practice anything like the GTD. I imagine people have probably brought something like that up quite a few times on this podcast with Get Things Done. But I feel like, having a get things done kind of structure can help a lot, but just having that clarity of where everything is going to go, like where that North Star is for you, is incredibly helpful at realigning everything on a daily basis.
Yeah, and over, the people that we talk to that are productive all have some sort of GTD, GSD, whatever they call it, mentality. And it's almost always the nebulous is the same. It's just the language or the order is a little different.
Absolutely.
But, but it's not a secret.
No, if it is a secret, it's the world's worst kept secret, because it seems like everyone who's getting something done is doing it.
That's right. So based on that, another thing we like to talk about on the show is productivity is not just finding out what you want to do, why you want to do it. It's being accountable for getting it done. So what do you use, or who maybe is a better way to ask? It just depends. Who or what keeps you accountable?
That's a great question. I have a accountability partner for almost every project that I got. I have a little accountability tribe, which is really just a group of my friends. And I've been doing this for the last 12, 13, 14 years now. It started even when I was in school and we're just trying to learn stuff. And back then I didn't know it was called an accountability partner. I had a friend who came up with this term, or he had heard this term from somewhere else. And he would call it throwing your hat over the fence. And he used the analogy of how cowboys back in the day, when they had to cross over a fence, like a barbed wire fence or something like that, or something difficult to cross over, they'll take a look at it and they'll take their hat, their little cowboy hat, and they'll chuck it over the fence. And as a result of them chucking over the fence, they now have to go around, get over the fence, because you don't want to do it.
Right.
You don't go over the fence, you'll have lost that hat. So it
burn the sales approach.
My friend basically and we would set up this thing. We would set up these little accountability challenges for ourselves. And the answer was simple: is we would each challenge each other to do a task. And whoever doesn't do it would have to buy the other person dinner. And the other person gets to choose where. And this was back when we were students, so we had no money. So
high stakes.
We got the stuff done. We never ended up buying to the dinner, and we just got everything done. And then even later on, when we started becoming more and more successful, we started upping the ante. We would hand each other a spare key of our car, and it became if I don't finish, that's your car for the next 2 weeks, and I will pick the bus.
Nice.
And I got a nice car, so trust me when I said I had no issues keeping him on task.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's a great exercise. Yeah, and I was thinking you burn the sails. I forget which in history where that was exactly, but if you don't have any way to get back, then the job's got to get done. So that's right, I love the hat version. It fits in Texas really well.
Yeah, I can imagine, right?
Yeah.
But just setting a goal. So right now, for example, I've got this other goal that I'm working on, and I've set it with my little tribe, my little group. And you put in, for us, it's you put in a large amount of money. Different people, you put in whatever you're comfortable with, but people are putting in $1,000, $2,000, and whatever. If you don't get it done, if you don't have the task done, that amount of money goes towards a charity that you do not support, a charity that you hate. It's a real interesting one. People scramble when you're thinking about that money.
That's funny. I like it. It's effective, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, so last thing. Good, man. I love this. You've got some great analogies I haven't heard before. So I love this. what is the one thing, like at the end of the day, if you had to talk to the listener kind of directly and say tomorrow, if you did this one thing and you just did it every day for a week, you would just automatically start seeing results. What's that one thing for you? What would you share with people?
For me, my most recent sort of revelation, if you will, is the sort of importance of starting your day with a moment of clarity. And for me, that usually means like once I get up, I have my little morning routines. And I'm sure you hear about people talking about this quite often, especially recently, how important that sort of morning routine is, or the miracle morning is. And for me, it's that sometime during that day, sometime during that morning routine, I always have these 3 steps, which is I always take 3 things to take a look at. Number 1 is always, what am I grateful for? And that's the big part of this kind of gratitude movement that you've been seeing recently. What is the thing that I'm most grateful for, which puts me in a mindset of, oh, this is what I'm doing. And number 2 is, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing all this for? And that realigns me with my journey. And what is the one most important thing that I have to get done today to take my first step? So those 3 questions, and that's it. I just take 2 minutes. Because you that's all you really need. You just sit down in front of what you got, you breathe it in, and you take a look at those 3 questions. What am I grateful for? Why am I doing this? And what is the one thing I gotta get done today? And that simplifies all the clutter. So you could take a look at, like I've got 4 meetings and 6 projects and like 12 client calls. But really, at the end of the day, if this is the one thing I get done, this will have been a successful day. That is the one thing that kind of keeps us focused. So I think that the 3-step plan, that's all you really need. I mean, add in the exercise, add in all the intentions, add in all the meditation, whatever you want to do, it's great. But if you've got no time for any of that, take 2 minutes, sit down and answer those 3 questions. That's all you need to do.
That seems like a good midday practice too, if you're freaking out a little bit on your day.
Oh my God, yeah. Which these days I think I need more.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Breathe. Awesome. Yes, exactly. I like what you said about scheduling earlier, your off time and your on time, because something similar I've done is scheduling in my calendar my morning practices, scheduling in the middle of my day some qigong, some breathing exercises, and things like that, just to decompress a little bit midday, every day. Like all those things. If you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen a lot of times, especially in the world we live in now with all the distraction.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend yesterday, and a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs. Overwhelm is like the language of our people, and we have a habit of taking on more than we can handle, and always more than we can chew. And so she was going through a moment where she was like really kind of struggling, and I was just thinking, like, look, I mean, plan a couple of hours. Like actually put it into your calendar.
Right.
Don't just say like, oh, I need to take a break. Like plan it in there. And then when you get that moment of guilt and you're like, oh, I gotta be doing work right now, and you become distracted, you'd be like, I will get it done, but right now I am committed to not doing work because I need to get my brain back on the focus. I need to have my tools back. It's kind of like, imagine that, your car needs maintenance. And if you're not doing maintenance work, you're not giving it gas, it's not gonna run. So no matter how hard you press that pedal, if it doesn't have gas in the tank, it's not going to go anywhere. So give yourself that time, right?
Right. Yeah, sputtering car won't go very fast.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Great, man. John, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate all your insight on stuff that you're doing, and what a great cause. Something I love and support. And I love you guys' Instagram account. If you don't know particularly, that's the one that I follow the most, and because you put a lot of good ideas up there, just kind of daily, hey, here's an act of kindness you could do. Don't even have to think of something to do. I can just look on my feed. So what is that handle for your social accounts?
It's really easy. For Facebook, it's just facebook.com and then One Kindness, ONEKINDNESS. On Instagram, it's the same thing. It's just One Kindness, ONEKINDNESS. And on Twitter, it's at @1_kindness. So before I go, I want to quickly sort of add one more thing, which is, that thing we're just talking about sort of finding your focus. A great way to do that is actually to go and do an act of kindness. And it can be a small thing, like I said. Yeah. Nothing quite gives you that sense of joy Kindness has actually had studies linked to lowering of stress. It's called cortisol. There's a stress hormone that we have in our body.
Right.
Acts of kindness has been shown to directly reduce that sense of stress. Because then it makes sense. I mean, I'm thinking you probably have experiences, and as a listener, you probably have experiences saying this as well. At some point, when you've done something for somebody else, and you feel that sense of happiness after you've done it, that happiness in that moment of feeling that joy, in that moment of feeling that peace, you probably can't feel a lot of stress in that moment. And that's because kindness is actually actively lowering your cortisol levels. So when you're going through that kind of uncertainty, go and do an act of kindness. It's just that one act every single day. Change the world, change yourself, make yourself happy. There's no losers here. It's all win-win.
That's right. And I love that because, the brain's such an amazing, complex, kind of miracle that we have. And it's very hard to figure out sometimes, but it's also very easy to figure out in other ways, in that your brain can only think about one thing at a time, really. And so if you're in that joy and that peace and that service act, then the other's gone. It doesn't do both at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you want a bracelet, you can go to my website. It's just onekindness.org, onekindness.org. And there's a little form you can fill out and let us know how many you want. But otherwise, Jake, just send me up your address. I'll send you some, and you could, if you want, you can send it off to some of your listeners as well.
Absolutely. That'd be great. We'll set something up on social media around that. So, John, thanks again for your time today, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Such a pleasure, Jake. Thanks for having me on again.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye. This has been the Productive Point of View podcast.